Welcome to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out the Shimbol ZOlink 600S wireless transmission system. This is designed to send wireless video signals with audio via HDMI or SDI, thanks to the ports on both the receiver and transmitter. This pack allows you to send a wireless signal up to 600 feet or 200 meters line of sight. I've done a distance test in this video and we've repeated the test 3 times just to confirm its results, so I'll timestamp everything in the description below. Now, before we get going, a massive thank you to Shimbol for sending this out for the review. If you want to find out more about it, links to this product will be in the description below. Just to let you know, they're not paying me to make this video, but they are letting me hold on to this sample unit. On the surface, this might not seem like the most exciting product, but it solves a number of different problems that you may have as a content creator, filmmaker, or someone who does a lot of live streaming. I'm going to explain who this pack is for and the benefits about it. One of the clear benefits to a wireless transmission system is its ability to send a signal wirelessly to another location. That can be an external monitor like this, a portable one that can be battery powered. It can also mean that you're sending a wireless signal to a dedicated monitor in a studio room to help prevent clutter of cables on the floor. This pack also allows you to not only monitor externally on a monitor, but it also allows you to send a signal to a mobile phone thanks to the free app. This allows you to give clients a monitor to review the footage without having to get everybody cluttered around the camera operator. For those who do a multi-camera podcast, you can now get a run and gun camera. Say, for example, you do something like the H3 Studios where you don't want to have a HDMI cable going from a run and gun camera back to an ATEM mini. You can use this as a replacement for the HDMI cable, allowing you to get a great wireless signal back to your switcher. For those who shoot comedy festivals or music events, you'll love the fact you then have 2 options at your disposal. One, you can send the receiver to a projector and shoot everything in real time and have it come up on the projector screen in the room so people at the back can see what's going on. Or 2, if you're at a live event outside, you can send that back to a switcher and then that can be streamed to the web and you don't have that clutter of cables. Let's quickly touch on the things you need to know about this pack. So they're extremely light, coming in at 160 grams. You can power them either via a Sony NPF style battery, which means you can go for a nice small one like this, or you can rock out with a huge one like that. So being that they run on NPF batteries gives you more flexibility on how heavy the rig is, as well as how long they'll run for. Additionally, we get a USB-C port on the side here, which allows you to power them indefinitely without the battery on or with the battery on, depending if you want to leave one on there. Now, it won't charge the battery, but it allows you still to power the unit indefinitely thanks to using something like a phone charger or a USB port on a computer. These units are completely passive, which means there's no internal fan, and that keeps the overall noise floor down. These units are rated at 200 meters or 600 feet line of sight, and I'll test that in this video. Now, being that this is wireless, we do get a latency of 80 milliseconds, which is definitely noticeable between real time and the time it takes to hit an external monitor or device. Interestingly enough though, if you're using your mobile phone as a monitor, the latency is cut right down. It's about half the latency, around 40 milliseconds over that of 80 seconds just by using the pack itself. At the time of filming, this pack retails for $420 US. Now that might seem like a lot of money, but when you compare that to the Pro packs that have really low latency that cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, it's actually not a bad deal. One of the criticisms I have of this pack though, even at $420, you don't get much with it. You get the receiver and transmitter, you get a USB-C cable, and you get an instruction manual. Unfortunately, you don't even get a mount to put it on your camera. Not even a little cheap guy like this, which would have been a really welcomed addition. So if you plan on buying these, you'll have to build it up to suit your rig. Now, being that they run on NPF batteries, you can get nice big batteries or nice small batteries to keep the weight to your specific needs. Before we talk about some of the pros and cons, I thought what we'd do is go outside and do the all-important distance test. Up next, we're doing the all-important distance test. We're rounding back here is going to help with the walking part because I'm too lazy. So I've got this hooked up to my Andy Cine 4K monitor. It's using the Panasonic GH5. It will work with, of course, anything that supports HDMI. So let's give this a shot and we'll see how well it works. And I'll keep an eye on it on this reference monitor here, and you'll be able to see exactly what's happening through the magic of 2 cameras. Now, she is facing the opposite direction as well, but because the camera is still line of sight, we shouldn't be experiencing any issues with the signal. At a distance you might though, so just keep that in mind. Anytime line of sight is broken with this kind of technology, that's where it can glitch, but it should be working. We'll keep an eye on this anyway. Now Rhiannon's easily close to 200 feet away. I'll get out of the shot here so you can see where she's at. She's all the way down the bottom of this hill, which means that all being well, this is still working. Let me just check. And it is still, I've actually just lost connectivity at this distance slightly, but as she comes back up the hill here, it has kicked back in, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so interestingly enough, it is working fine as on the way back, but it just did slightly glitch there at the bottom of the hill, maybe because line of sight was broken, but otherwise it's back now, which is great. As Rhiannon makes her way back up the hill, I'll just keep an eye on it, and I'll comment on this again at the end of the video as well, just in case there are any major problems. But so far, pretty good. Maybe not quite rated to its intended 600 feet range, but that is true line of sight. So anytime it gets blocked, that's where you may experience some interruptions there. So yeah, looks good otherwise. So minus that small glitch, pretty cool. Let's talk about the results. So just to let you know, we ran this test 3 times. 2 out of 3 of those times, the signal did drop anytime we broke line of sight. Now, line of sight with any digital transmission pack means it has to have nothing between the transmitter and the receiver. A lot like these wireless packs, they will glitch if you're at a distance and someone walks between you and the receiver, or the transmitter and the receiver. So just keep that in mind. This pack functioned exactly the same. I think in ideal conditions, you'll get close to that 200 meters, but for me personally, I wouldn't risk it past about 80. The reason why they give you that extended distance is so if you're ever indoors, it will punch through people and obstacles in your way without any hassles. But in a true line of sight test, if you're at the beach, for example, maybe outdoors in a park, you might experience issues if true line of sight is broken. So just keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the transmitter up close. Now, this is essentially exactly the same as the receiver in terms of its physical build. So we're just going to take a look at the transmitter. We get an SDI in on this side, a HDMI in, and that USB 5 volts for powering it. On the back of the unit here, we can eject the battery just by holding in the eject button and then pushing towards me this way, if it's facing me this way. And then to click it back in, it goes in just like that, and then it's locked into place. We get an on-off switch over here, a mounting point on this side, as well as a mounting point on the lower side. As you can see, the receiver has a HDMI out and an SDI out instead of the SDI in and HDMI in. The only other way to tell them apart is it says RX and TX. TX is transmitter, RX is receiver. Another benefit to this pack is you turn them both on and they'll pair automatically. You can also select from a number of different channels. Thanks to the Shimbol app, it makes it really easy to connect to the transmitter, which allows you to view everything in real time on your phone. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So you'll need to scan the QR code. Now, I was looking everywhere on the unit for a physical QR code, but it's actually built into the transmitter over here. So you hold the right button down for 3 seconds, and that's the QR code that you need to scan through the Shimbol app, and then it will connect automatically, and you don't have to do anything else other than, I think, click join, and that is it. So it connected first time once I found the QR code. To wrap this video up, I wanted to talk about some of the pros and cons with this pack. So considering its price point, I think it's pretty good value considering what you get. I wouldn't trust this past about 80 meters line of sight. It just starts to encounter too many problems. Now, it did work past that 1 out of 3 times, but just weather conditions and obstacles will make that become a little bit more unreliable. If you're indoors and it's not that cluttered full of people and you've got true line of sight, that might be completely different to these unfavorable outdoor tests. But I just like to let you know my experience. 1 out of 3 times it worked fine. The 2 other times it did drop signal. There's one other update I'd love to see with this pack in a future firmware update, and that's that there's no auto power off. Now you might be saying, why do you want an auto power off? And that's because sometimes if you just throw these in the bag and you accidentally knock the on switch, it will be on, irrespective if there's signal going into it. So this was on in my bag getting really hot without, being outdoors or at least in an open air environment. I should have probably have taken the battery off, but sometimes you're in a rush, you throw everything in your bag, sometimes the switch will get knocked on and then it will get hot fast. So I would love to see that addressed in a firmware upgrade. My only other complaint with this pack would be that I wish they had have included a mount for the transmitter. It just seems to make a whole lot of sense to include one, but again, I think these are aimed at people who have already got some of these accessories. It's not going to break the bank buying one of these, they're only a few bucks, but it would have been a really handy thing to have one included. So let's talk about the strengths of this unit overall. So I think it works extremely well in the right conditions. Don't expect it to reach its maximum distance, but in an indoor environment where you want a run and gun or a sort of freelance camera on a multi-camera podcast, it would make a whole lot of sense. I could see venues using this to project a HDMI signal on a screen at a distance as well. That's where I also think it's going to be at its best, but it does require true line of sight at a really far distance, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to be shooting indoors, say up to even 20 or 30 meters, it's going to work without any problems whatsoever. Even if there's a wall in the way, it should punch through that without any problems. So overall, a pretty decent pack. At 420 bucks, this pack may seem expensive to some people, but again, if you want the lower latency, you're going to be paying a fortune. Those packs will cost you a lot. So this would be a great solution for someone who wants a reference monitor wireless in a room, for example. They want to send a signal to a phone. There's a lot to like about this. So a massive thank you to Shimbol for sending this out for the review. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.